Hello from Kingfisher, Oklahoma. Today we're going to look at Exodus 40 and Leviticus 1. I'm excited to be closing out Exodus for today and jumping into Leviticus also. Well, we've got seven things. The first two being that after the tabernacle was all finished, God tells them to set it up in the first month of the year, making a new beginning. In fact, number 2, it says that it is the first month of the second year, meaning it's been nearly a full year, about 2 weeks short of a full year, since the Passover. So God took them through all of this in just about a year's time. Never noticed that before. Third, the priests are going to be anointed. Aaron is the high priest. His sons are going to be anointed, and they're going to continue down on the line like that, so they have to be anointed. And after all this happens, it's all set up, the priests are anointed, they are ready to go. The glory of God comes down in a pillar of cloud, fills the temple, and no one can enter it because God is so powerful. He's so holy, and what a sight that must have been. Number 5, now we jump into Leviticus. We start seeing some of the particulars of the law. We're going to see different kinds of law. We're going to see sacrificial law. We're going to see laws that set apart Israel from other nations. We're going to see moral laws. We're going to see national laws that cause everybody to be able to work together. It's going to be pretty interesting. The first law we jump into is the law of burnt offerings. Now they're going to teach the Levites how to handle the burnt offerings and what to do. But also, the people, this is number 7, are going to offer what they can afford. If you have enough money for a cow, you can offer a cow. If you have enough money for only a sheep, you could do that, or a goat. Or perhaps you have the sheep and goats. Or if you're too poor for even that and you can only offer a dove or a pigeon, that's okay too. It lists out the different things that you could do for a burnt offering. One of the keys that we want to say is that it is pointing towards Christ, because in each of those things it says that the burnt offering has to be unblemished, perfect, spotless. So let's jump into there. Of course, that points to Christ. Chapter 40. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, On the first day of the month thou shalt set up the tabernacle in the tent of congregation, and thou shalt put therein the ark of the testimony, and cover the ark with the veil. And thou shalt bring the table, and set it in order, the things that are to be set in order upon it. And thou shalt bring the candlestick, and light the lamps thereof. And thou shalt set the altar of gold for the incense of the ark of the testimony, and put the hanging of the door of the tabernacle. And thou shalt set the altar of the burnt offering before the door of the tabernacle in the tent of congregation. Then thou shalt set the laver between the tent of congregation and the altar. It shall put water therein. Thou shalt set up the court round about, and hang the hanging of the court gate. And thou shalt take the anointing oil, and anoint the tabernacle, and all that is therein, and shalt hallow it, meaning to make holy, and all the vessels thereof, and it shall be holy. And thou shalt anoint the altar of the burnt offering, and all his vessels, and sanctify the altar, and it shall be an altar most holy. And thou shalt anoint the laver of his foot, and sanctify it. And thou shalt bring Aaron and his sons unto the door of the tabernacle of congregation, and wash them with water. And thou shalt put upon Aaron the holy garments, and anoint him, and sanctify him. And he shall minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt bring his sons, and clothe them with coats. And thou shalt anoint them, as thou didst anoint their father, that they may minister unto the priest's office. For their anointing shall surely be everlasting priesthood throughout all generations. Thus did Moses, according to all that the Lord commanded, so did he. And it came to pass on the first month, in the second year, on the first day of the month, that the tabernacle was reared up. And Moses reared up the tabernacle, and fastened his sockets, and set up the boards thereof, and put in the bars thereof, and reared up his pillars. And he spread the tent over the tabernacle, and put the covering of the tent upon it, as the Lord commanded. And he took and put the testimony into the ark, and he set the staves on the ark, and put the mercy seat above upon the ark. And he brought the ark into the tabernacle, and set the veil of the covering, and covered the ark of the testimony, as the Lord commanded. There's always a separation between the Holy of Holies and the court where everybody else can go. And he put on the table the tent of the congregation, and on the side of the tabernacle northward without the veil. And he set the bread in order upon it before the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses. And he put the candlestick in the tent of the congregation over against the table, and the side of the tabernacle southward. He had lighted the lamps before the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he put the golden altar in the tent of the congregation before the veil. And he burnt sweet incense thereon, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he set upon the hanging at the door of the tabernacle. And he put the altar of burnt offering by the door of the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation, and offered upon it the burnt offering and the meat offering, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he set the laver between the tent of congregation and the altar, and put water there to wash withal. And Moses and Aaron and his sons washed their hands and their feet thereof. When they went into the tent of congregation, and they went and came near the altar, they washed, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he reared up the court round about the tabernacle and the altar, and set the hanging on the court gate. So Moses finished all the work. Then the cloud covered the tent of congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And Moses was not able to enter the tent of the congregation, because the cloud abode thereon. And the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And the cloud was taken up over the tabernacle. The children of Israel went onward in all their journeys. But if the cloud were not taken up, then they journeyed not till the day it was taken up. For the cloud of the Lord was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire was on it by night, in the sight of the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. So just like as they walked from Egypt to where they are, they followed the cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. And God is showing them once again, hey, in the tabernacle, it's the same God. You're still following me. Pretty incredible. Now we're into Leviticus. And the Lord called unto Moses, and spake unto him out of the tabernacle of congregation, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say to them, If any man of you bring an offering unto the Lord, ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd and of the flock. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. We're going to see that a couple times. He shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord. He shall put his hand on the head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for him to make atonement for him. So this is sin, and he puts his hand on him, saying, You're taking the sin for me. And he shall kill the bullock before the Lord, and the priest Aaron's son shall bring the blood and sprinkle the blood around the altar that is by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he will flay the burnt offering and cut it into his pieces. And the sons of Aaron, the priest, shall put fire on the altar and lay wood up in order on the fire. And the priest, Aaron's son, shall lay parts, the head, the fat, in order on the wood that is on the fire, which is on the altar. But his innards and his legs he shall wash with water, and the priest shall burn all on the altar to be a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of a sweet savor to the Lord. And if his offering be of the flocks, namely of sheep or the goats, for a burnt sacrifice, he shall bring it a male without blemish, and he shall kill it on the side of the altar northward before the Lord. And the priest, Aaron's son, shall sprinkle his blood round about upon the altar, and he shall cut it into his pieces, and he shall lay with his head and with his fat, and with the pieces, and the priest shall lay them in order on the wood that is on the fire, which is on the altar. But he shall wash the innards and his legs with water, and the priest shall bring it all and burn it upon the altar. It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of sweet savor to the Lord. And if the burnt offering for his offering to the Lord be fowls, then, or birds, he shall bring his offering of turtle doves or young pigeons. And the priest shall bring it to the altar, and wring off its head, and burn it on the altar. And the blood thereof shall be wrung out at the side of the altar, and he shall pluck away his crop with his feathers, and cast it beside the altar on the east part, by the place of the ashes. And he shall cleave it with the wings thereof, but shall not divide it asunder. And the priest shall burn it on the altar upon the wood that is on the fire. It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire, a sweet savor to the Lord. So that's what we're going to see in Leviticus, is how that the priest should do all the things that is part of their rituals, part of their commandments by God, and how people should make their offerings. And we're going to see several different types of offerings. So I'm really excited to jump into Leviticus. Glad you joined me today. We'll catch you next time.